we can share our knowledge and also our experience here. So now our all participants and our colleagues and all of you, just welcome to our webinar. So it would be, as you know that Bangladesh, we feel always proud. Bangladesh is the first country to ban implementation, the ban plastic bag. So that because we always feel proud, and ESDO is a pioneer organization to work on this. It's a long experience, and this organization begin only the one issue. That was the plastic bag ban issues. So that campaign is now we see this very successful, and globally we see globally is moving around with us. Always we all are trying to ban plastic bags. So everybody please welcome and join with us, and happy to see you all. Thank you. Thank you, Shajiti.
Thank you very much, madam, for your time and welcome address. So we have a team presentation by one of our colleagues, Ms. Nazma Ahmed now. If you have any questions or queries about the subject, topic, and discussion, please leave your message in the chat box. We will address those later in today's session. So Ms. Nazma, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much, Shejiti Apu. Hello, I'm Najma Ahmed. I'm working as Program Associate at Environment and Social Development Organization. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Just to confirm, can you see my presentation on the screen? I'm sharing my screen. Is it visible to all?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. So I welcome you all to today's TIP presentation that has been entitled as International Plastic Bag Free Day, and our slogan for this day has always been Ban the Bag. At the very beginning of the presentation, let's have a quick look at the shocking facts related to plastic bag uses around the world. We use around 5 trillion plastic bags per year. About 2 million plastic bags are used every minute around the world, and fewer than 1 in 7 plastics are only recycled, which comprises less than 1%. Plastic bags are used for an average of 12 minutes, and around 1 lakh marine animals are killed by plastic bags annually. Approximately 1 million seabirds also die from plastic. So why is it a matter of concern, and why is it a threat to health and environment? As we all know that plastic bags are non-biodegradable. It takes around thousands of years to degrade, and unfortunately they completely do not degrade. They become microplastic that absorb toxins and continue to pollute the environment. Seabirds, turtles, and other marine organisms often mistake plastic bags for their food and die from plastic ingestion and entanglement. Ingesting polythene-wrapped food is harmful to human health as well, as it is apparently an agent of cancer, skin diseases, and other health problems. And when burnt, polythene releases hydrogen cyanide, which is an extremely hazardous gas. Now, discussing about the context of International Plastic Bag Free Day, I would like to introduce you all to the anti-polythene movement of ESDO, or Environment and Social Development Organization, which is the very first movement of its own kind in the entire world. ESDO is regarded as the pioneer to anti-polythene bag and no plastic campaign in the world. In 1992, ESDO organized a nationwide anti-polythene campaign in Bangladesh, which involved the media and support by numerous organizations and public leaders. And in 1999, the Ministry of Environment and Forest in Bangladesh recognized the anti-polythene campaign as the most important national movement, while in 2000, ESDO was selected as the principal task force representative in pushing a complete ban of polythene bags in Bangladesh. So ESDO's efforts, the success of ESDO's efforts was justified when on 16th April 2002, 2002, the government of Bangladesh banned plastic shopping bag with an issuance from the Ministry of Environment and Forest. And to discuss about the very latest update on this regulation, very recently on 6 January 2020, the High Court Division of the Supreme Court in Bangladesh ordered the government to strictly enforce ban on polythene or throwaway plastic bags across the country through implementing several measures, including regular market monitoring or closure of polythene manufacturing factories and so on. ESDO's effort was not only appraised nationally, but it also got recognition from the international community. It received worldwide recognition for the success of the campaign from countries like Australia, India, Pakistan, USA, Japan, and European countries as well. International organizations like World Bank, UNDP, Greenpeace International, and Friends of the Earth recognized ESDO as a lead organization for global anti-plastic or anti-polybag campaigner. International Service of Japan's public media organization NHK launched a documentary featuring chronological movement of Dr. Shahriar Hussain and ESDO towards banning the plastic bag in Bangladesh. I have attached the YouTube video link or documentary link in this presentation. So ESDO has not only been putting up efforts for the banning of plastic bag, but at the same time, it's also putting up efforts to promote alternatives to polythene shopping bag. And one of the most prominent efforts of ESDO is the annual Alternative Bag Fair. Since 1998, the environment-friendly bag exhibition became an annual ESDO event. It was held as part of the organization's anti-polythene or plastic campaign. Manufacturers of cloth, jute, and cane bags from all over the country participated in the event. And ESDO, besides that, ESDO also continuously conducts researches on the alternatives to plastic bags and often provides financial and technical support to SMEs on indulging into business of alternatives to plastic shopping bags. Now let us have a quick look at the plastic bag regulations around the world. As of 1 January 2020, bans have been introduced in 74 countries with varying degrees of enforcement, and 37 countries instead impose a charge per bag. So we can easily understand that a lot of countries have already taken regulatory measures to ban or to control at least the uses of plastic bag. But still, the evidence suggests that the plastic bag pollution remains a massive problem, which may be attributed to several factors such as failure to regulate plastic through its entire life cycle, favoring partial bans over full bans, no restriction on manufacturing or production, numerous exemptions, and no incentives offered apparently for alternatives to single-use plastic bags. Now, what are the background and vision of today's day, which is the International Plastic Bag Free Day? International Plastic Bag Free Day is a day of action that was introduced first by ESDO in Bangladesh in 1997 and was later recognized by the European countries 10 years later. The day is dedicated to heightening awareness about very real and pressing issues that is brought about by the most popular form of disposable carrying devices, which are the polythene or plastic bags. And it is important in the terms of increasing awareness about the dangers and harms associated with the bags and encourage people to find suitable and eco-friendly alternatives to polythene shopping bags. Being the pioneer to anti-polythene campaign in the world, ESDO has been celebrating International Plastic Bag Free Day annually through interactive initiatives such as launching electronic awareness materials or e-posters, arranging human chain rallies, seminars, open discussions and awareness campaigns, and so on. Every year on the occasion of International Plastic Bag Free Day, ESDO dedicatedly promote or launch an awareness material over the electronic media that I'm showing you. Some specimens or some e-posters that have been launched previously on the occasion of Plastic Bag Free Day by ESDO in this particular slide. So now I want to quickly tell about some ways to celebrate this day. Even if just for one day, choose paper over plastic, or even better, bring your own bags to the retailers or pick up your goods. If you own a store yourself, start a program to encourage your customers to bring in their own reusable containers and stop offering plastic bags as an option. And if you want to become even more proactive, or then find an event, volunteer, and help it yourself. So these are the very easy and simple steps through which you can celebrate this day. Now, in this slide, I have put on some very, very common environment-friendly alternatives to polythene shopping bag. here comes paper bag, reusable cloth bag, reusable jute bag, which is very much abundant or very widely used in Bangladesh, and reusable cotton mesh bag as well. So as I said that every year, ESDO launches an electronic poster on the very occasion of International Plastic Bag Free Day. And ladies and gentlemen, through this presentation, we are officially launching our this year poster, which you can see in your screen. This is the official poster that ESDO is releasing on this very occasion. Thank you so much for your attention and patience, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Nazma Ahmed, for your comprehensive presentation. And the poster is really appreciable. I believe all our participants would like it and have their consent with this. The same, say no to plastic bag. Okay, so now this is the time for our guest speakers. So first, I'd like to request Mr. Griffin, sir, to have a few words with us.
Thank you very much, Sejuti, for welcoming me, and thank you to ESDO for inviting me to this nice webinar. Very interesting topic that is I'm very passionate about, and something that I feel that is a very good way to raise awareness on the issue of plastics. So thanks for the International Plastic Day. I would like to, introduce my presentation, and I have a presentation in PowerPoint, which if you enable me, I can share my screen. Let me see how I can go about it.
Griffin, you can go to the bottom, you can see the green. Yeah.
You have it? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Cool. Thanks very much. So I would like to give you a short presentation that give the experience of the Kenyan plastic bag ban, which has been really cited as one of the strictest and enforced plastic bag ban, particularly in this part of the world, besides Rwanda. And in this presentation, I share a picture of an activity which, as an organization, SEJAD undertook in coastal Kenya, which is along the Indian Ocean. So maybe I begin by just an introduction of myself. I'm Griffin Sochieng from an organization called Center for Environment, Justice and Development. I will share more about the organization. I'm a co-founder and executive director, and also head the programs in the organization, as well as I also play a role in the United Nations Environment Program, where I co-chair the NGOs major group. These are organizations, NGOs particularly, that are accredited to engage with UNEP and its decision-making organs like United Nations Environment Assembly, and also Committee of Permanent Representatives and other subsidiary bodies. So in that role, one of the issues that is before that is the issue of plastic bag and plastics, and I play some role in the marine litter expert group. So just an outline of what I would share with you is, one about the organization, as I've mentioned, the environmental challenges in Kenya in general. Of course, plastics being one of them, and waste management. And this was mainly the driver for the plastic bag ban in Kenya. And of course, addressing the pollution, plastic pollution and waste management challenge in the country, that is Kenya. I will also specifically share a bit about the plastic bag ban in Kenya and how that came about. What were the main reasons, and so far what has worked with this ban that is being cited, what is currently working that we are seeing, and some of the challenges being faced. So as a start, as I said, Center for Environment, Justice and Development is a public interest NGO. We were registered in 2012, and we mainly work to promote sound management of chemicals and wastes, and of course plastic pollution, advocating for a total ban of plastics. And we are an accredited organization to UNEP, and also a member of a number of international networks that I'm happy that we share with the ESDO, and we meet regularly. IPEN, Gaia, the Working Group, and the Break Free from Plastics. plastic. And so in this presentation, in this slide, I just share some of the program areas that the organization works in. The one highlighted in red is actually the main basis of our topic today. And so we are actively engaged in this, implementing a number of projects, as I put in the right column from my screen here. We found particularly in the coastal Kenya, where we try to address through community participation ways on how they can be able to handle the problem of plastics and waste, which is a big issue, but also at an international level advocating for a total ban or closing the tap on plastic production. Besides other programs of plastics, which is also related issues of persistent organic pollutants elimination, for example, dioxins and furans through open burning, which is very much a common practice in this part of the world, where it releases chemicals and mainly, again, problematic when you burn products like plastics and other polythene materials. Of course, issues of chemicals like heavy metals, we advocate for elimination of lead in paint, addressing issues of pesticides, and also issues of mercury and Minamata Convention. So, sorry, I think there's a problem. Okay, so an introduction of Kenya. So for many of you, perhaps who may not be familiar with the country, we are, if you look at the map, we are located in the east of Africa, neighboring to Tanzania, Uganda, Rwanda, and Somali. And as at 2019, last year, when our population census was conducted in Kenya, we are at a population of 47.5 estimated millions. And we have a decentralized system of governance where we have the national government and what we call county. There are 47 counties in Kenya. And one of the counties, Nairobi, where is also the capital city of the country. So, and among this population, 34 and around 34% that of the population reside in urban centers. So these are mainly large cities of Nairobi, Mombasa to the coast, Kisumu in near Lake Victoria Basin, Nakuru in the Rift Valley, and Eldoret. So we are Nairobi itself being the capital city and the most popular city. We have a population of 4.7 million, and this is where I live and work at the moment. So in terms of the environmental challenges in Kenya that are common also in many other parts of Africa, we have the problem of pollution majorly and issues of poor waste management. The pictures there shows you what was the situation mainly before the plastic bag ban came, particularly for polythene bags. And we have huge dam sites that you find in many major cities that I've just mentioned. And there's a really problem of this in the country. And this also brings out other challenges of global warming and climate change. We have a big problem with deforestation. The forest cover in the country has shrunk, and there's currently a big drive to increase the forest cover to acceptable UN levels of 10%. We are currently at around 6%. And when it comes to specifically the issue of waste and plastics, so you can see the Nairobi city, which is the capital, generates estimated 2,400 tons of waste per day, very huge. And the disposal performance is mainly 1,800 tons. And so many, around 600 remains uncollected or illegally dumped and even burned in the open. And so this is a very huge challenge in the country, and particularly for the residents of Nairobi City. And there's a lot of citizen calling on the municipality, which is called the Nairobi City County, to be able to address this problem of waste management. And so it's really a big issue. And so when it comes to addressing the problem of the plastic bag ban and the plastics and the ban that came, so there's been a lot of attempts that has been made by the country to ban the plastics. And so there were almost 3 attempts when Kenya, through the National Environment Management Agency, which is like the implementing agency for the ministry in terms of enforcing environmental laws, came up with some bans which were really successful. These were mainly, decreasing the microns of the polythene bags that were there, particularly provided in supermarkets, And so several attempts, this did not take off. And so the continued production of polythene bags were there, and supermarkets were being issued these bags and every other shop. And so there are also a lot of lobbying that led to this, failures, whereby we have the manufacturers or the producers of these bags. We continue to, seek legal redress or legal battles to reverse those bans that were being enacted by the government. So around 2013, after the three failures, citizens, and I would want to single out one gentleman called James, who is also very active and passionate about the issue of plastics. And so we started a social media campaign with such kind of posters, which were, and being that the social media tool was being, the uptake of social media was very much beginning around that time. So this became very viral, and citizens began to relate with the problem of polythene bags. And I will share how they were doing that. And so it showed documentary evidence through his social media channels, taking videos, and of how plastic bags have impacted the environment. And he dubbed this campaign "Ban Plastics in Kenya." And not only him, there are other civil society organizations, and also support from Minister of the Environment at that time, which really stood ground to ensure that the ban that came to be in 2017 was there. And so for almost 4 years, on a daily routine, these awareness campaigns were being generated and made viral. And with every season of rainy season, when the floods and happens and drainages are clogged with polythene bags, Kenyans became more conscious of the problem of plastics. And so other grassroots organizations, lobby groups in the town, which is based in Rift Valley, called Nakuru, one of the other cities, which have these big dump sites, were really participating in this online campaign. And so this was the main driver towards the ban that came to be. So therefore, in 2017 and in August, the government just decided to gazette a notice saying that we are going to ban all single-use polythene bags in the country. And being that, as you expected, the backlash from the manufacturers, there was a lot of legal battles. But being that the population could be able to relate with the problem of polythene, which is blocked drainages, public health risk concerns, poor transportation in terms of littering. I showed you a picture where the bags were littered on a tree, I think in northern Kenya. These were a big eyesore, and particularly the plastics in the environment. So there was a lot of public support for the government when they came up with the Gazette notice that banned the plastic bags. And so this is the legal framework that it was anchored in. So we have environmental framework law, which is an overall framework law on environment called the Environmental Management and Coordination Act. It gives the minister authority, or currently we call them cabinet secretaries, to come up with a gazette notice on a particular issue of concern in the environment, which is raising concern to the environment. So one of them was the issue of plastics. So in this gazette notice, which was enacted, Gazette Notice 2356 in August by the then minister, it really, as was the last, pronouncement by the government in terms of banning the single-use plastics. And not only that happened, because there was a lot of battle in terms of, complaints from the manufacturers that this is going to have a devastating effect in terms of job losses, in terms of employment, and it went to the court. And in the court, Environment Court affirmed the decision of the minister after hearing all the parties. And because there was a lot of public support, I think one of the pronouncements that this is an issue of public concern, and so the petition by the manufacturers was squashed and thrown out. And that's how this ban came to be up to now. Realizing that this is going to be a losing battle, and being that the government at the time of the ban said the next stop would be PET bottles, I think the manufacturers realized that with the public support, the court route is not going to really stand. So they came up with other, voluntary measures or pronouncements saying that they are going to be part of the solution. And I will share a bit more about that later. So in 2000 and just recently at the International Women's Day in Canada, the president of the country attended that meeting and made an announcement in that meeting, women conference, saying that Kenya is going to go ahead and ban plastics, PET bottle and others, just to reinforce the ban that was enacted in 2017. And at that meeting that was last year, the announcement came that this ban in protected areas. Now we're looking at areas where we have protected areas like national parks, wildlife sensitive areas, forest areas, where if you're going to visit, and particularly for tourists and other visitors, you are not allowed to get into these parks with any form of PET or single-use plastics. And this was to come to effect in the 5th of June, so it came into effect on the World Environment Day, which just happened last month. And so it included other, particularly in protected areas, included PET bottles and straws and others. However, there's still a concern, particularly in the rest of the areas, in the public and in the environment, the problem of PET bottles. And this is where I want to say that being that the ban that happened in 2017 and there was a court process and the manufacturers and the proponents of plastics that failed, there's a lot that has happened, particularly from manufacturers, which, sensing that the government is serious and going to go ahead to ban even PET bottles, came up with what they call PETCO, which is a PET recycling company. It's an arm of the Kenya Association of Manufacturers, which is the lobby for the manufacturers, which is now coming up and doing or saying to be doing a number of promoting recycling of plastics. This is, in my view, was just a way to jump ahead of the government in terms of pronouncing to ban of PET bottles, to try to show that they are part of the solution, not as before. So at the moment, the government has come up with another regulation, which is what called Extended Producer Responsibility Regulation, which is being developed, and it's under public participation at the moment. It aims to address the issue of recycling and other initiatives. So I would say that in terms of what has worked, the policies and laws that are of various mechanisms that address the plastic pollution. One is the ban on the carrier bags. Now the issue of the protected areas. In the other regulation by the government, which is called Waste Management Regulation, there are obligations which are given to the generators of waste and producers. There's general law across all the counties that prohibiting littering. If you are found littering, you are liable for prosecution. And of course, regulation of waste transportation in terms of how transporters, in terms of even the vehicles for transporting the waste, has to be manufactured in a specific manner. So there is those kind of regulation and policies. When it comes to judiciary and the role in terms of legal battle, public interest one, as I mentioned, when it comes to the issues of public knowledge and in terms of those who want to, circumvent these laws, there's a lot of strict penalties and jail terms that are spelled out in the Gazette notice and the laws in the country. So these are very much up to 4 years in jail, for example, and those amounts of money. So this is really a deterrent to the general public, even though there is everywhere there are people who want to try and think that government is not serious with whatever they're doing. And of course, as I said, general public support, which is embracing alternative packaging, especially the one that was shown in the ESDO presentation, which has been embraced very much. So when you go to a supermarket, you carry your own bag and you reuse it as much as possible, because the supermarkets and other shops will not give you any polythene bag. So what is working? I would say the issues of enforcement and surveillance and monitoring is very much being conducted by the agency in terms of spot checks and follow-ups. Public will also give tips to the agency and the police if, for example, in a backyard, there is someone or a company which is manufacturing polythene bag, particularly at night. This is what they normally like doing, and every public, because you are living near people, so they will be able to, raise these concerns, and the police will come for you. And there's always continued awareness, feature stories in media about the issue of plastics, and of course, continued support by the public. We have embraced the use of reusing plastic alternative bags when we are going to the supermarkets, even at the moment. And these are some of the pictures of the authority, visiting shops, those who still want to continue to sell this and or to use this, and they're always arrested and prosecuted. Yes. Yes.
Because of the time, could you please wind
Yeah,
up
I'm just
quickly?
finishing. This is the last slide.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, some of the challenges involves weak enforcement and policies and design gaps in laws, which is lack of clarity of the bag, and of course illegal entry and smuggling, because some of the neighboring countries have not enforced their laws with regard to plastic bag ban, and of course the other PET that is still out there in the environment. Thank you very much, and those are contacts.
Comprehensive presentation, and it was nice to see the works of Sejal. So now I'd like to request Ms. Gail Hoth from.
Hello, everybody. Thanks a million for the invitation. I'm super impressed with all I hear from other speakers. Actually, just sharing an anecdote, when I was working and campaigning for a ban at EU level, I was actually looking at the legislation adopted elsewhere, so in Kenya, etc. So I'm so impressed and so happy to get to know, even if it's virtual, the people and organizations behind those huge and massive legislation. So my name is Gail. I'm working at Surfrider Europe. It's an organization working for the protection of the ocean. We've been fighting plastic pollution for 30 years now. Our organization was created by surfers, hence our name, who were absolutely fed up of with going to the sea and be surrounded by plastic and marine litter. So we're also a proud member of the Recent Plastic Alliance and the Break Free from Plastic movement. I'm not going to say more on this movement because I think there will be someone speaking on the regional movement of from the Break Free from Plastic global movement. I wanted to share with you what's going on at EU level. So as you might know, it's quite recent compared to what you've been doing. The fact that we are fighting plastic bags. Why? Because just like you, plastic bags are also having massive impacts in Europe. And the use of plastic bags is still and was even more massive in the past. So to give you some figures, in 2010, we had every EU citizens using on average 198 plastic bags per year. And we estimate that around 89, so 89% of those bags were actually single use. So the estimates also show that we had around 8 billion plastic bags actually in the environment in the European Union. So a big pollution that the EU needed to address through law. So the European Union has finally done so in 2015 when we adopted what we call a directive, so law, to reduce the use of plastic bags in Europe. But I'm very jealous because I could hear from what you were saying that actually, and I know it, in your countries you were successful in having a ban. This is not the case in Europe. With other organizations, we were fighting a lot to have a ban, but in the end, our decision makers decided to have a series of measures being possible to reduce plastic bags, those measures include bans, but it's not compulsory. So you must understand, so the European Union, we have institutions deciding together with member states on laws to be adopted, and then those laws apply to 27 member states. So it goes from Germany, France, Spain, to smaller countries like Malta, Latvia, Estonia, etc. So this is massive when we have an EU legislation. Unfortunately, we experienced, just like in Kenya, some opposition from the industry and also from some member states. Some member states and industry players didn't want the EU to decide on a ban because they considered it was restricting the market. And maybe you know, but in the EU we have a common market, which means people can circulate freely, but goods as well. And so they were opposing a ban because they were seeing it as unfair. And they wanted rather taxes, levies, or even awareness raising campaigns. So with what I say, you can imagine that the fight was immense and huge because we were asking for bans. We consider single-use plastic bans have, an amazing pollution. It's persistent and they're useless. And we were saying that, look, we have alternatives, so we should ban them instead of having like low ambition measures like taxes and levies. So it was a huge struggle. It was in 2013 and we were actually looking at legislation. And in the end, a ban was still made possible in the legislation, which you must understand was, even if it seems like something not ambitious, it was big because it was the first time in EU law that we had the possibility to ban a single-use plastic item. Then maybe you know, but last year at EU level, we adopted another big regulation where this time they decided on banning a series of plastic items, from straws to sticks for balloons to cutlery to what else? Women items, etc. So now we have more will coming from EU institutions, and they have now decided to go for bans for items. So so you understand that, yeah, bans were not obligatory, but still we had a series of countries, and it's more and more countries which are actually decided on bans at EU level. So we have France, Italy, they were the first, but now we have Spain decided on a ban, Romania, Germany has just decided on a ban on plastic bags. So the movement is growing, and we see it as a very positive movement. Yet today, for the International Plastic Bag Free Day, because we are also celebrating it a lot in Europe, we just issued a report assessing the differences between member states in Europe. What about their ambition? And what we could see, and it's in line with what was shared with Kenya, we see that there are still a lot of challenges ahead. For example, we see that member states have decided on many exemptions from their measures. So for example, some have decided that outdoor markets were not covered by the law. So if you go to an outdoor market in Greece, you can still see a lot of single-use plastic bags being handed out, and obviously we oppose this, especially because Greece is also a coastal country, so you imagine a lot of plastic bags can actually blow into the sea. What we see also is a lot of exemptions on what they call bioplastic bags, which in fact cover different realities. We have biodegradable bags and bio-based plastic bags. So those bags are still single-use. So we oppose those exemptions because they are not at all solving the plastic problem. So it's another series of exemptions we oppose. And it's massive. We have a big bioplastic industry in Europe, and they've been pushing a lot governments to exempt those bags from the measures. which is a very, very sad move we've been observing, and this movement is growing. Other exemptions we have observed is on very lightweight plastic bags. I would be interested actually to hear if in your legislation you also have this differentiation made. So what they called very lightweight plastic bags are bags below 15 microns, because in Europe, the bags which are actually addressed are bags under 50 microns. So they consider that those very lightweight plastic bags, so below 15 microns, are the ones commonly used for veggies, fruits, etc. And they have many countries, unfortunately in Europe, have decided to exempt those bags from the measures. So this is again something we oppose, because they represent a massive share of the plastic bags used, and they are single use. They're even worse than the other because they are very light, they can be recycled, etc., etc. So those are some of the most commonly found exemptions in the legislations, but we have also some other weird exemptions, like some countries have decided that bags without handles should not be covered by measures, etc., etc. So to conclude, what I wanted to share with you is that we have obtained in Europe a massive legislation that still needs to be improved. And next year we have an opportunity to revise the directive and finally, hopefully, get a ban, we hope, on single-use plastic bags. But in the meantime, what we are denouncing is many, many exemptions. Member states in the European Union are granting. So we can do way better, but we need more ambition to remove all exemptions. And so I think that's it for my side. So if you want to have a look at our report, which was released this morning, it's called "Make It Right: Time for Europe to act against plastic bag pollution." And there you can see all the details. Thanks so much, and happy to participate in the Q&A session. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Madam. It was really good to learn about your efforts. So now you're going to MD Ziaul Hoxar. Sir, would you like to share your experiences and views towards the issue?
Thank you, Shajuti, and good morning and good afternoon, colleagues and participants. I gratefully acknowledge the pioneering role of ESDO in moving this anti-plastic campaign, in discharging the anti-plastic campaign for quite some time, and as we have seen since 1992. So I gratefully acknowledge their contribution in this particular area on anti-plastic movement. And I have heard the presentation from Griffins of Kenya and Gail, and their inputs are very useful and constructive. In fact, if we consider our case, our national perspective, it is true that we had initiated long ago the complete ban on polythene shopping bags, and you know, in our legislation, we enacted this banning on polythene shopping bags, and we have a definition for what is the meaning of polythene shopping bag. Actually, polythene shopping bag includes all type of bags composed of polypropylene, polyethylene, and the mixture of these polymers, everything, and whether they have the handle or without handle. So it was very broad in sense that we actually banned all type of polythene shopping bags whatsoever they have handle or without handle, polythene, polypropylene, and their mixture, their compound products, everything. So it was very strict regulations that we had quite some time, quite ago, long ago. And ESDO at the time made a very pioneering role in moving this agenda forward, and they were successful in enacting this law by the government. But in the reality, on the point of enforcement and compliance, we feel that it was not easy, and we have been struggling to implement this law on the ground, and in terms of enforcement and compliance. So you understand that even the EU is not able to ban on single-use polythene shopping bags. And as the Gail has pointed out, that in 2010, 89% of the plastic bags were single-use. So it is a challenge, big challenge. And Griffins also made some very practical point on that. So now the government has realized, in consultation with ESDO and other specialized organizations within government, outside the government, and the civil society, and environmental activists, climate activists. Now we are actually thinking of how we can meaningfully implement this ban. And in the presentation of ESDO, we have seen that the Honorable High Court, they also made a verdict that we have to restrict the use of single-use plastics by 2020. And at the same time, they also pinpoint some areas. So we have to restrict the use of single-use plastics in the coastal areas, along the coast, the coastal districts, and the tourist spot, the restaurants, the resorts along the coast, since we have huge coast and many tourists are going there. So initially we have to implement this banning on single-use plastics in coastal areas. So this is also a challenge, and we have to meet this challenge. But I feel that, and we are working hard with other related activities, like whether we can promote in a large scale the alternative products, as ESDO has pointed out, the cotton, jute, and others, papers. So we have to make them available in the market in a large scale. Otherwise, it is somewhat difficult to convince the consumer to actually shift them from the very available plastic bags to the alternative environment friendly bags. So we have to make this in a gradual phases. And now actually the government is considering very seriously what would be the feasible actions that can be implemented on the ground. What would be the practicable actions that we can actually comply. The consumers can comply, the producers can comply, and even the who are the actually retailers who actually distribute the plastic bags from city to the villages, to the grassroots levels. So they have also very critical role to play in reducing the use of plastic bags. And I have seen in the Griffin's presentation that initially they have enforced this ban on a particular areas, in a designated protected areas. So this is my personal opinion. It is not the government position. This is my personal opinion that in order to implement meaningfully on the ground, whether we can first start with the complete banning of single-use plastics and other polythene shopping bags in some specialized areas, the tourist spot, as I said earlier, along the coastlines and the coastal districts, as well as the other protected areas. We have eco parks, we have safaris, we have other resource, nature resource, public, private. So there are many. So we can impose this ban or restriction in this particular designated area. So this is a good idea. We can take from the Kenyan's experience, and at the same time, actually we are also working very closely with the development partners, the World Bank, and other multilateral funding agencies on some particular areas. We have initiated a new project with UNIDO and the Norwegian government on reduction of use of plastic bags and marine littering. The World Bank is coming forward to help us. So we are now developing EPR guidelines. We have developed. It is almost finalized the Bangladesh solid waste management rules. Now we have sent this solid waste management rules to the Ministry of Law for their vetting. So in this solid waste management rules, we try to incorporate all important elements that we have been talking about now and in another forum. So we try to capture those critical elements in the rules, which will be enacted very soon. And the EPR guidelines will be also the part of this rule. So the producers, the national and multinational companies, brand owners, the big producers, big importers, they have to have the responsibility to take some burden on managing these packaging materials they are using. The single layer packaging material, double layer package, multi-layer package. So they have to take the responsibility to some extent in managing this waste, plastic waste. And actually we are gradually moving forward, and the government is very serious about that. Actually, the ESDO and the other environmental activist organizations, they are consistently pushing the government to take very concrete actions, and hearing their very concrete proposals, we are trying to actually implement those very useful recommendations in our national actions and national legislations. But one point, apart from the management, very environment-friendly, comprehensive management of plastic waste, I feel that Gail has also raised the issue, but she is not supportive of that. But we have been discussing with the partners, the nationally and international partners who produce the 100% biocompostable polythene bags, 100% biodegradable polythene bags, and they are trying to convince us that as an alternative, we can also consider those fully biocompostable polythene bags, which can be which can be composted by the organic materials in the soil. So they can be absorbed by the soil organisms, and actually there will be no residue after the absorption by the environment or by the soil organism. So we are still examining this, whether these are the constructive proposal or not, but we are seriously considering this. And with regard to the promotion of other the alternatives like cotton, jute, and paper, we have directed the major chain shopping malls, the super shops, not to use the plastic shopping bags or plastic bags in their super shops or chain supermarkets. So they have to comply with these directives of the government. So they should use the cotton or jute or the paper bags in their shopping malls or chain supermarkets. So we are working together. We are working with the NGOs, civil society, and the and the very important role that ESDO is playing. We are also working very closely with ESDO, and we are taking their recommendations, their expert opinion in delivering the government jobs and our activities. So I sincerely appreciate ESDO to celebrate the International Plastic Bag Free Day. I haven't seen any other organizations who are celebrating this International Plastic Bag Free Day and say no to plastic bag. So I sincerely appreciate ESDO and other who are associated with this campaign, and I gratefully acknowledge again their contribution they have been discharging for quite some time, for since 1992. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for the positive attitude towards the ban of plastic bag from government's point of view. So now we are moving to Dr. Shahriar Hussain, sir, who is the pioneer of this campaign in this country.
Shajuti, Fräulein.
Sir Fräulein, sir wanted to talk at the last. He requested me.
No, actually, I'm not going to talk anything. So this is the last speaker. So I'm
Okay.
just wrap up the whole thing.
Okay, sir. Okay. So we are going to Fräulein, sir.
Yes. Hello, everyone. It's very inspiring to hear all these stories from around the world. And of course, thank you to ESDO and to everyone who's been working on this issue. When I first started to work on plastic bag bans about 15, 20 years ago, here in the Philippines, people viewed me as someone who's crazy, you know. So it is very important to have stories like these come out because they are very inspiring. And ESDO has really been a trailblazer in this issue. When we talk to government officials, local officials, and they tell us that it is impossible to have plastic bag bans, we do cite the example of ESDO in Bangladesh, which, as we've seen, the nation had this ban in as early as 2002. And then after that, more places around the world, even places in Kenya, in Africa with Kenya and Rwanda, which is recognized for their enforcement right now. So I think this webinar today is very important because it is very crucial to highlight these stories to show the world that this is already happening in so many places and there is so much to learn from each other. So thank you, ESDO, for organizing this and for all the work that you've been doing. Of course, my special thanks to Shahriar, who has been an inspiration in our network in Gaia and Breakthrough from Plastic for all the work that you are doing there. So I'll keep this brief. I'd like to briefly introduce my two organizations. I'm with Gaia. So Gaia is a global network of grassroots organizations working on waste and other pollution issues, and we are happy to have Shahriar and Griffins and everyone who are part of Gaia and who are leaders in this movement. Breakthrough from Plastic, on the other hand, is a global movement of organizations working to end plastic pollution. So our vision is a future free from plastic pollution. We started about 5 years ago in 2015 with 60 organizations. And right now we have more than 2,000 organizations around the world with Surfrider in Europe and actually in all regions of the world, showcasing that this work is very crucial. And our members here are working on the entire life cycle of the plastic, from extraction to consumption to waste disposal. So we have different organizations working on this. So in case you are interested and you have a need to be connected with other organizations working on different pieces of the work, we would be happy to connect you to some of the members of the Breakthrough from Plastic. Briefly, just a context in Southeast Asia, we've seen the numbers from the ESDO presentation. So I don't think it needs repeating why we need to do this. And as Gail mentioned, one of the reasons why we are focusing on plastic bag is because it is almost a low-hanging fruit, right? I mean, there are alternatives. The experience in ESDO with jute bags in Bangladesh shows us that um, it is not easy, but it is also not impossible to ban plastic bags as compared to, for example, plastics used in transportation, in airplanes, or in the medical care setting. Plastic bags presents an opportunity that is comparatively easier to address at this point. And these stories from Kenya, these stories from Bangladesh, and so many other places are showing that it can be done. And from the previous speaker, I think it is also very important that we see the perspective from the government. So, sir, I thank your openness to this and your leadership. So, we are very happy to hear this, and if there are ways again where we could support the work in other places, we'd be happy to do that. So, I'll probably end there with a thanks to all of you for all the work that you're doing, and for inspiring us to continue and continue to believe that this can be done. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir. So now you are moving to our question and answer round. So if you have any question, you may raise your point. We have already one in our chat box. So this is from one of our participants, Ms. Samin. She has a question to Gail, madam, that why do you think biodegradable bags are not a sustainable solution comparing to single-use plastic bags?
Thank you so much for the question. It's a question we've been asked a lot in Europe. Well, the main reason is biodegradable bags are still single-use plastic bags. So we should not make a difference between the two. They are still single-use. Then we have a lot of concerns. First, there is a lot of confusion. I don't know in your countries, but in Europe, we see that people don't understand what's behind a biodegradable bag. It's also because we have some industries, so the bioplastic industry it's called, they are using bioplastics without distinction between a bio-based bag and a biodegradable bag. So I don't know if you master the difference, but a biodegradable bag is a bag which can be degraded thanks to microorganisms. The standards we have in Europe only guarantee their degradation into industrial conditions. So the problem we have with biodegradable bags, is that people believe they degrade readily in the environment, for example. And so we have a study from the US showing that people tend to litter them more because of that. So actually, they are not solving the solution, but actually worsening the situation. Another concern we have is, well, so you understand they can also degrade in industrial composting conditions. And in Europe, for example, we don't have a lot of bio-waste collection in place. So it means that people are actually throwing their biodegradable bags into their residual bin. And so it's just materials being wasted because they don't go where they should go, meaning into an industrial composting facility. And so it's a loss of materials. Other concerns we have, I've said that we don't have any standards. So a lot of industries are actually saying it's biodegradable. Just mentioning the fact that it's only in industrial conditions, but then also there is no standards, and so we only have a standard for industrial composting, and so the time limitation, the time where the bag actually degrades is not clear. And we have a study recently, which was recently conducted in the UK, showing that a biodegradable bag was actually found 3 years later after having been put the bag into soil and water. So it's a clear also proof that they don't degrade in the ocean. So when we hear industry saying, look, this is a solution to ocean pollution and nature, and pollution in nature, this is not true. They don't degrade this way. So we have a series of concerns, but I would say our main argument is they are still single use. just like the others. And the solution is reusable bags and reusing your reusable bags. So yeah, I see that maybe you had a point, Fräulein. I was seeing that you were nodding a lot.
Yes, so just to say that I agree with all the points. So I think the number one concern with biobags is that they're still single use, and if we don't change the way we're using them, if we still view everything as disposable, then it doesn't really address the problem. No? But just to add on some probably Asian context, one, there's a lot of false advertisement around this. A lot of the bags that are being promoted as biodegradable are actually oxo-degradable, meaning they're still primarily made of petrochem, no? But they degrade under certain conditions, but they're not, as Gail mentioned, there's a difference between what is biodegradable and compostable and all these other standards. The second point is if and when we do go for truly compostable bags made of cassava or other starch out there, then we have issues around where do we get the raw materials. You know, if it would still be the same system of disposable, then we'd have to clear our forests to produce the cassava or the other starch there to produce this compostable bag. So what you're doing in ESDO, what's been doing in Bangladesh is the right way to go. Promote local solutions. If we have jute bags, if we have reusable bags, that is the best way to go, because then we're not only solving the problem of plastic pollution, we are also supporting local economies by supporting the people who are producing these reusable bags.
Okay, thank you. So the floor is open for all. Anyone have any queries or anything to add? You may do.
I didn't have a question, but I just wanted to add a compliment, because I think it was interesting that extending producer responsibility was mentioned. And I didn't mention in my intervention, but this is something we have adopted in the EU, and maybe it's something worth looking at. I don't know. But now, from 2025, plastic bag producers in the European Union will be obliged to pay for the cost of management, transportation, treatment of the bags, which are discarded in public spaces, but also they will be obliged to pay for the cost of cleaning up the littered items. So this is a big win. We had 2 years ago, and it was adopted last year. So in addition to what I said, that we are not so happy because we don't have a ban, we still have very good measures, and extended producer responsibility is one of them. So yeah, they are finally paying for the pollution they are contributing to create. So that's very good. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we are sure that all your efforts will be paid off. So anyone can ask any question or supplement. If anyone doesn't have anything to add, we may go to Dr. Shahriar Sir for his concluding remarks. But still, we have time to discuss more. If anyone is interested, he or she can do.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Sure, madam.
One question
Sure, madam.
To our Director of Department of Environment, Jia Bhai. So why do we think about the biodegradable plastic bags on other, but you told other things we can use. So is it clear, Jia? Okay.
Yeah, actually, we've been struggling to enforce the ban on complete polythene shopping bags, but that's why we are actually considering, the multiple opportunities, multiple options. that we can consider and we can implement on the ground. So one of them is this, whether we can consider the fully biocompostable polythene bags. And you are right that they are obviously they are single-use biodegradable bags, but at the same time we heard that if you put the kitchen waste in the biocompostable bags, and you can just throw the bags consisting of this kitchen waste to the compost plant. So you don't need to take out the kitchen waste, then do the composting process. You just throw the bags along with the kitchen compost, kitchen waste. We have heard, we are still examining this. With regard to your specific questions, in fact, you understand that how millions of bags, the single-use polythene bags we are using, taking into account the population of Bangladesh, 170 million people. We are staying in a very small land, so we understand the gravity of the problem. And some says that we are using almost 2 billion or 3 billion in a month, in a day, 3 billion single-use polythene bags in a day. So that's why I feel that apart from the promotion of this cotton, jute, and paper bags, whether we can have a very large-scale production of other materials. And but you are absolutely right, and I am always along the line of the ESDO, that we have to promote the local producers to produce the cotton, jute, and other bags, environment-friendly bags. At the same time, many of us know that one Bangladeshi scientist actually invented a biocompostable bags from jute cellulose. So we are also considering this jute-based biocompostable polythene bag, which can be commercially produced and used. This is coming from the jute cellulose, which is grown in plenty in Bangladesh. So we are actually considering multiple options, since we are struggling to implement the law since 2002, 2003, and this is a big challenge we are facing. So that's why we are not actually pinpointing any single options. We are flexible of taking any feasible options that could be beneficial and that could be conducive for the environment, for our public health, and the people of Bangladesh. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So anyone else want to add anything? Okay, if not, so I'd like to request Dr. Shahriar sir to make his concluding remarks.
Thank you, Shajuti, and thank you for the guest speakers, MD Ziaul Haq from Department of Environment, Griffins, Gail, Florians, Foylin, and all other participants. And your participation make this event happen. And we believe that this is an awareness event. And this is not the actually right forum to discuss about beyond the bag issue. And already there is some issues related to the bags about the alternatives and EPR schemes, and Ziaul Haq already mentioned about that government is moving forward for EPR scheme, and this is a good sign. And this is very interesting that in every part of the world and the people and the government. Government, who is the government? Government is for the people and by the people. So there are many peoples, many governments is coming forward, and the list we saw that the 74 countries are moving forward to regulation, restriction of the plastic bags. And we hope that many others will be in this list in coming future. And because of our environment, because of our health, because of the mankind, the plastic bag and single-use, particularly the single-use plastics, is a serious havoc for our life and our nature. So this is importance, and the younger generation, those people are already participated in this event, and you are the next generation leaders. So you have to raise your voice louder. You have to come forward and raise this issue in your arena, in your jurisdiction. Then it will make the big success. Bangladesh has the regulations, and the government is still struggling for fulfilling the mandate. So, but it will happen if each and every citizens to be responsible, to be aware about the issue. And if we can say that we are not, we are saying no plastic bag, that is what we are mean it. So each and every participants, every citizens of the country, every citizens of the world, to determine that we are not going to use this single-use plastic materials. So if you can go back to the 20 years, awareness level was 0. If you can see the right now, his awareness level is increased. His huge increased, and it's a significant achievement of the contribution of the government and the public sector, private sector, civil society movement, and all the citizens come forward with the issue of plastic pollution. So I'm very much optimistic person, and I believe that the coming future, we will be definitely, our world, our planet Earth will be free of plastic bag, and not only the plastic bag, free of single-use plastic bag, single-use materials. So we have to change our behavior. We have to go for renewable, reusable practice. So it is as well as to change our daily livelihood and behaviors. So I believe that we will together achieve our goal, and our planet will be livable for the future generation, and make it happen as soon as we can act positively. So again, I thank all of you to participate this event and make it a success. And we will continue to work on this issue and to continue your support in upcoming events. Thank you very much. Again, thank you very much on behalf of ESDO team, my colleagues, and whole ESDO board. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.